So, Vinod, we are back here again. Uh,
Yep.
I'm happy that you're joining our team as the Chief Data Officer and AI Officer.
Hmm.
I think I see a lot of value in your experience.
Yeah.
So let's start with I know we are in the agentic space,
Yeah.
and you worked on a lot of um, enterprise systems, traditional applications.
Hmm.
Now, what is the difference when it comes to agentic AI based applications versus the applications that we are used to, right?
Hmm.
What do you think? Where do you think? What is the difference? What do you think the difference is?
Um,
I mean, other than AI, we know that AI is going to be somehow involved.
yeah,
But other than AI, what is that? We need to know.
definitely. First of all, thanks for having me again, Rejith. It's always pleasure speaking with you. And like you said, I'm happy to be part of the organization at a certain capacity. Thank you. I'm excited. The traditional system versus AI, like agentic AI, I see it like people when they talk about autonomy, they think like autonomous AI just can figure things out, right? But that's not the way how I see it, right? The way I see it, it's like a system design with the right architecture, with the right. It's a model. Obviously, at the end of the day, you use a model, whatever is that model, but with the right software scaffolding, right? When I say software scaffolding, it can be the tools and the entitlements that are surrounded by the model. It can be the orchestration. It is to do with the right governance and the right observability of the outcomes that the AI agents. The combination of all of these things is how I see is an agentic AI that can act in an autonomous manner, the way how the enterprise desires it to be behaving to produce the right outcomes. That's the way how I see the agentic AI.
So traditional applications, we most of the CIOs and CTOs, a good chunk of them are really technical,
Hmm.
and they will know, like many will know the architecture. Like you have a UI, you have some sort of API layer in between, and then you have cache, um, you have a database,
Hmm.
maybe some sort of queue. So when you look at traditional application, people have something in mind in terms of an architecture, right? So how is it different when it comes to say an agentic? What
Yeah,
layers are there? What are the different components?
yeah. The thing is, first thing is the agentic AI or an agent that you have designed will have access to the memory, the context. It has access to the prior decisions that have been made. It has access to all the business information. Like previously, traditional systems are like rule based, right? If you can recall, they are rule based. They are a outcome. They have a. I would say they are like a goal
Yeah, we
driven.
specifically code for it, right?
Yeah, you
We
specifically
understand the business, the requirements, then we code the rules.
right.
Oh,
This is
right.
basically the way. That's like a goal driven system, right? Goal driven planning across across the enterprise designed in certain steps. That's the way how I see it. Whereas the agentic AI is like a tool mediated. It's a tool is there is a model and the scaffolding around it is mediating the action with the memory, with the guardrails, with the governance, with the human in the loop. That's the difference, right? It's acting on top of number of use cases, lot of data versus traditional system which was going after a predefined rules and the if else conditions and that kind of stuff. So that's the way how I see it.
So in this architecture, where does like tools like LangChain or say Crew AI fit in?
Yeah, so that's a great question. See, this is the thing that I tell organizations, that don't fall in love with these tools and the frameworks.
Mhm.
So these are definitely temporary accelerators, Rejith, right? I mean, definitely the models have evolved so much in the past 2 3 years. You have seen that. Same thing will happen with the framework. These are temporary accelerators, but definitely there is a value for all these LangChain, LangGraph, and all of they have a lot of capabilities. But the way how I tell what I tell organizations is, don't fall in love with these frameworks. Don't have a tight coupling of your business logic, your your access controls, your um, the guardrails and everything. Don't have a tight coupling to these tools. Separate them from the framework. Your business logic, your access controls, and your policies, the way how you classify things. All of these things, separate them out, and make them in a way they can be portable from one framework to other framework if needed, right? Once you adapt to a framework, it's not easy to replace, but don't make it to a point that it's not irreversible, right?
Right.
Don't
Some
have a
people are evolving, right?
yeah.
So it's better to stay kind of tool agnostic,
Right,
right?
right, right, right.
Uh,
So yeah,
and and
yeah.
and I think and as we are implementing different agents, one of the
Mm,
things that we are realizing is you have to be a multi-tool,
mhm,
multi-model,
mhm,
multi-hyperscaler approach. That's what you should take, right?
mhm, mhm,
The reason is all of them are evolving.
mhm.
So, but you don't want to wait and lose time
Right.
because there are a lot of things you can achieve with the tooling that we have today.
Yeah,
But you need to design in such a way that hey, tomorrow there is a new tool comes up.
exactly.
You should be able to use it, leverage
Yeah,
it.
it's the same thing, right? Like even when this is a core principle that we tell the organizations to operate with. Don't have a tight coupling with even a vendor tool that you are acquiring. Tomorrow, if you have to replace that vendor tool with something else, it should be easily replaceable, and your architecture should be agnostic of for these tools. So when you architect, when you design, keep these things in mind.
And switching gears a little bit, right? One of the so I recently I read that one of the research or one of the large consulting firms came back and said uh, data is key, right? So a lot of agentic um, projects are failing
Hmm.
because they jumped in without knowing whether the data that they had is AI ready, right? So
Absolutely,
what do
yeah.
you think of that?
So I completely agree with them. Right, I think we discussed this in one of our previous podcasts. Data is eternal. Data needs to be the curated data should be of high quality, and I think the organizations should operate in a federated kind of a model. A lot of times their data is sporadic. It's like everywhere in silos and all of that. My suggestion have to the clients in the recent year has been that have a single pane of glass, a factual centralized data repository on which AI can act on, right? If you don't have that kind of luxury to have one central repository in place, tools there are tools out there that can federate, that can crawl and reach out to various data stores across the enterprise and pull the relevant data for to feed it into AI systems, like tools like Databricks, Microsoft Fabric, Snowflake.
Snowflake, yeah.
So there are many other tools that have the capabilities to reach out to tens and 20s or 30s, whatever number of databases that you have, including the structured and unstructured data.
Mhm.
But only thing is you need to make sure you have the right cataloging and policies put in place so that you don't give the agent enormous access, right,
Right.
across all these platforms. You need to have the guardrails put in place. You should have the role based access. You should have the treat the agent like a human, right? Like if you go back into traditional systems, whenever there is a system ID, most of the time that system ID can do anything in the organizations, and we were able to live with it to some extent. But when it comes to agents, don't give the entire access to the agent. You are basically shooting yourself in the foot if you do that. Treat agent like a human and give the least privileged access. Right? Let Rejith and Vinod. Rejith is a business executive. He should have a certain privilege. Vinod is an architect. He should have a certain access. Or I am an end user. I should have certain access. So treat that way, and give that agent access to make API calls, go after the data repositories, even access to the information generated by another agent, right? Whenever agent is trying to access the data points across the enterprise, give it the least privileged access. If needed, give the access based on the time, right? You want to give an access for a day, you may want to give access for a month, or you may want to give what is just-in-time access, right? That's the term that they use. So think about all these things and put the guardrails in place accordingly. And that's one principle that I can think of. There are many that I can talk about when it comes to governance, but yeah. So
So that's a good point. I think one of the interesting terms that you used is it's a human. It's considered as a human, right?
yes,
So yeah, and we use the term digital worker.
yeah,
So you should onboard an agent just like the way you onboard an employee.
yeah, yeah,
So you determine what, because an employee is not going to get all the access, right?
exactly.
Based on the task that employee is going to do, you need to identify what access that employee needs.
Yeah,
In this case, it just happens to be a digital worker.
yeah, yeah,
So it's very important to give the right access, not only from a privacy perspective and data security perspective, it also to make sure that the agent stays focused.
yeah, yeah.
So hallucination is a big problem
Mhm.
even today. So when you have access to so many things, that increases the risk of hallucination, because
Absolutely.
it might not be able to focus properly, and you might say this is not working out really well, because guess what, I gave access to everything and the agent is not able to focus, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it is true for a model as well.
Mhm.
So I think it's important to use that human kind of approach where you onboard, give them role-based access control based on the role they're going to take.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah. Agree. I was speaking with somebody at Harbor West last week. I was speaking with Fidelity executive prior week. These are the concerns that they were expressing. Okay, how do I enforce security for the agent? Right, that's what they are struggling with, and this is exactly the advice that I give them. I mean, we can. In reality, there is more work that needs to be done. That's where organizations like lowtouch.ai and others can come into play, help the organizations. But um, just for this conversation, that's what I can think of, and that's what I can.
So earlier you mentioned that you need to get your data right before you
Mhm.
start, right?
Mhm.
Does that mean that they have to first work on it, or is there some sort of middle ground?
No, you don't want to wait for data to be in place. You can work on your AI initiative and your data part in parallel. You don't want to do it in a sequential manner, right? That's going to delay your progress, if you will. So you can work on synthetic data and experiment with AI, do the proof of concept. There are a lot of ways to generate synthetic data for any industry, any use case that you can think of. But at the same time, at an organization level, you should pull the right people and identify the right system to create the central repository for the use case. And when you do that, design the platform and the model in a way it's scalable, right? Don't design like one or data for just for one or two use cases that cannot be scaled. So think the bigger picture when you start on it. Think the bigger picture, long-term vision, and then start putting your data together. Um, Even if you want to do it for 2, 3 use cases, that's fine, but architect in such a way that it's scalable.
So since we're talking about data, when it comes to agents, how do they typically access data? So let's say I want to try something, right?
Mhm.
And I think you touched on role-based access control. So I want to, because let's say I'm starting with the pilot, and the
Mhm.
pilot agent only needs access to, say, one database.
Yeah.
I can handle that, right? I can get, and that is something that I can get approval from my security and
Mhm.
compliance. Say, I'm only giving access to this one database, or maybe a set of tables,
Mhm.
or maybe an API. So, how does typically agents access data?
See, the basically the way how I tell people is this way. I mean, agent accessing data is not a big thing, right? So it's just like how a system queries a trusted data source, agent can also do the same thing, right? You give access to, let's say, your trading system or your security master, or the patient database, or that kind of stuff. You give if it requires access only to certain entities in your data repository, give a read access to that particular ID that is associated to your agent, right? Agent 1 may have agent 1 sys ID, or whatever it is, the ID that you provided to it. It is going to access the database to query the data as much as it needs.
Mhm.
Same thing, like if there is an API repository, you give access to only certain APIs to that particular ID.
So the point is, you create ID specific for the agents.
Yes, you
Don't use
create.
any don't use any existing IDs that you have for some
No,
other application.
no. Treat
You
it like a
create,
human. Create
yeah.
an ID and give the access to that ID based on the roles,
Mhm.
based on the APIs that it needs access. So first of all, I would say this is how I would. I'll take another minute here, Rejith.
Sure, go ahead.
So define the agent. When you establishing the right governance is a key to be successful with agentic AI, right? And when I say that, you should have a business owner um, that should be owning that agent,
Mhm.
and there should be a custodian from the technology team that should be owning that agent. There should be a custodian and there should be an owner. And there should be a purpose. There should be a risk rating. There should be an accountability, right? If you don't have that, don't design an agent, right? That's where, and then you should have a right classification for the output that it produces. Is it produce? You are asking for a low risk kind of an outcome? Are you looking for a medium risk kind of an outcome, or a high risk kind of an outcome? High risk could be customer facing, business critical, a regulatory thing, and low risk can be just a summarization, research, and analysis kind of a thing, right? Think about all these things when you design an agent, and this automatically answers your data questions, right? What kind of data that you need, right? How much of a data that it needs to access, all that kind of stuff. So, hope I'm answering. So,
Yes,
your question, Rajat.
yes. So we talked about the data access. It's able to, you said, read-only access to access data.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can agents take actions? Let's say I want to post something, right? Let's take a typical example. I have an invoice coming in.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of manual processing involved today, even though there are RPAs and BPO services helping, smooth some, or automate some of those.
Mm-hmm.
But there are still a lot of manual processing, say invoice handling or
Mm-hmm.
claim processing.
Mm-hmm.
So can the agent make a decision based on the data access I'm giving? Can it take an action?
It can take an action. It can take an action. It can make a decision. It can take an action. But you have to see again, I'm going back to my risk classification. How much of a risk you can take for an agent to be autonomously making decisions and making executions on behalf of the enterprise. If it is a medium risk, if it is a high risk, definitely you should have a human in the loop. Right? It can come up with the recommendation, it can come up with the proposal, it can summarize stuff, and it can score the confidence level for its outcome. Right? I don't know, when I was part of my previous organizations, when you generate an alert for business users, whether it, let's say, trade surveillance or communication surveillance, when you find an anomaly, when the system generates an alert, it comes up with a scoring, right? Scoring of 50, 100, 200. 200 or maybe less than 100, or in some cases I remember it was up to 200. If it is scoring of 50, then it's not a critical thing to pay attention, but it's more like FYI kind of a thing for business users. If it is score 100 or 200 or anything of that sort, you should seriously look into that. Similarly, when agent produces an output, it can come up with scoring, how confident it is with its results. So that will help whether to route the outcome to a business user for human in the loop intervention, or should it directly take action for the end user. So you can design the agent in that way, so that you don't want it to take decisions autonomously for high risk items without a human in the loop, and the scoring will help if it can score its outcome.
That's amazing. So when you introduce the term human in the loop,
Yeah.
So how does that typically work? Does it send you an email? What are the options for human in the loop?
It can send an email. Or it can produce a report in the dashboard. That can be part of your workflow orchestration, and based on the actions taken by the user on the dashboard or at that review step, the next step can be taken to share the results to the client or the regulators or the business users. So there are ways to do that. Email is one avenue. Creating sending some kind of an alert notification. It can even text, depending on the situation. If it is if an application is supported via mobile and things like that, it can send a text. It's all business driven and the business user driven. It's the business user's choice on how they want to review it. So I have seen people relying on emails a lot. Even though they produce a report on a dashboard, they still rely on email. Email is something that everybody looks at. A text is something that everybody looks at. So even though when they see the text or email, then there will be a link to go to the dashboard to review the detailed report to take an action.
So if it's an email, for example, I'm assuming it will show me what I need to review, what decision I'm trying to help take, right? And then I can respond back in the same email saying, "Oh, it looks good. I'm approving it," and then the agent can continue with the workflow.
If you design it that way, yes, it's as simple as responding in the email, and if agent can read the response from the email and take the next step, that's one way to do it. A lot of times, email response is good, but sometimes you may want to log into the system and take the right action on the system itself, so that it's more secure and more integrated into the overall ecosystem.
Yeah, good point. Because some of the work that we did was integrating with ServiceNow, because ServiceNow is there. It's already in their ecosystem.
Yes,
that's the flow that they like to work on, and there's no additional training required.
Yeah.
So you could build agents that are interfacing with ServiceNow.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a typical use case that I have seen, especially for all these incidents that are happening. ServiceNow integration. ServiceNow can be integrated into into Teams and into other chat messengers. So that's definitely ServiceNow is where I have seen a number of use cases in the past 1 year.
And earlier we talked about a multi-agent, right? Um, can you talk about that? Why would I need multi-agent solution?
Yeah, see, single agent is typically, a customer support kind of a thing, right? It's a well-defined things like, research, summarizing information, triaging a request like ServiceNow that you mentioned, supporting a decision and all of that, or just supporting a decision. So those are the typical things that I'm seeing in the organizations, especially those who are starting to implement agentic AI. But and that's a good place to start, right? You start with a single agent, you see the outcome, you see the value that you are getting out of an agentic implementation, even though it is a single agent, and then scale into multi-agent thing, right? When we say multi-agents, multi-agents are obviously complex. There are multiple steps. Some of the use cases can be complex, that it has to go through, one agent gathers information, another agent analyzes the risk, another agent validates the output, another final agent, it kind of synthesizes the whole outcome and the results, right? So it's a use case driven situation. But if you are a matured organization, obviously you must be using multi-agent process. If you are in the beginning, I have seen a lot of people still still using single agents, bots, and things like that. The distinction matters at scale, right? Single agents are simpler, as you can think, and they're cheaper, easier to govern, whereas multi-agents, they introduce complexity, they require coordination, they require failure modes, and so on. And obviously, there are governance complexities as well with the multi-agents.
And when it comes to governance, right, in an agentic ecosystem,
Mhm.
where would the governance live?
Governance. So governance is a multi-layered. I won't say like it's in one place. It's like a multi-layered governance, right? You should have a governance at the model level, right? To use certain policies and to have access to certain policies. So you should have the governance at a model level. You should have governance at a tools level, right? So in the entire agentic system, the way how I see is there is a model, there is a tools and entitlements thing, and then there is an orchestration, right? So you should have governance at each layer, and then you should have governance at organization level too, right? You should have governance committees. You have that should be reviewing the use cases, that should be approving the use cases, to see the bigger picture across the organization. If there are any redundancies for what has already been implemented and what is in the pipeline and all that kind of stuff. So to answer your question, governance is a multi-layer. It should be at a multiple layers in the entire agentic ecosystem. Also, like memory. Memory is also another thing, right? You should measure. Memory is you. When it comes to memory, you don't want to. You can't. Model cannot have a memory forever, right? Model can have memory to some extent, but you want to have this memory maintained in a vector databases, in your organizational trusted data repositories, and so on. So you should look from those lenses as well.
And so this might be a basic question. So a lot of people are dealing with today, or they rolled out copilots, right? So transitioning from copilots to agentic, right? And we touched on it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So can copilots be kind of over a period of time extended with agentic capabilities? So because copilots are already rolled out, right? So
Yeah.
can I have a smooth transition from a copilot world to an agentic world by kind of integrating agents into the Copilot ecosystem?
That's a great question. See, what I'm seeing is co-pilots definitely will increase organization's productivity. Uh, it's a productivity interface for humans, largely user-driven prompting to summarize and all of that. Can they become co-pilots? So can they become agents to have an agentic kind of a system? It's possible. It's possible, but having a generic co-pilot to solve for organization specific problems, you still need to have your own agentic AI agents on top of co-pilots, even though they roll out those co-pilots. They may roll out with some generic use cases that may work across the industry, or that may work for a given industry for various generic use cases. But if you want to design for your own organization specific use cases, I think agentic AI is still the way to go, right? Let's say Microsoft provides an enhanced co-pilot that has the agentic capabilities, um, which is great, but you may still have to write your own orchestration. You may need to have your own policies. They still need to have access to your business intelligence or business information. It needs to have access to your policies. It needs to have access to your data. So this is where it may become like a LangChain or LangGraph, right? If Microsoft gives a co-pilot, it may become another framework, but you still have to design your own agentic system.
Awesome. So I think we covered a lot today.
Yeah.
So I think we should continue again maybe next week. I think yeah, that's all the questions I have. I think it's again, thanks for joining,
Yeah.
and we'll continue again. We'll come up with another episode next week.
Thank you. Thanks,
Awesome.
Rejith. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.